Palestine. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, before suspending the formal proceedings of the conference, we would ask you to kindly remain seated for the next part of this afternoon's programme. This meeting is suspended.
Nous allons à présent
We will now listen to statements made by heads of state and government, including by the co-chairs of the working groups. They will present tangible efforts made to implement the New York Declaration. I remind you that this Assembly endorsed the New York Declaration by a vast majority to the tune of 142 votes. We remind delegations that statements are limited to 5 minutes for heads of state and government, and those by ministers should be limited to 3 minutes. Microphones will be cut off automatically after these time limits have been exceeded. I now give the floor to the King of Jordan, Your Majesty.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Friends, I thank France and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for convening this meeting. We meet here at the UN, where every country, every people are promised a voice. We meet to raise our voices for peace and for justice, for the only path to ensuring security for the Middle East and beyond, the two-state solution. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the United Nations. Almost every year since, our countries have met within these halls to decry the injustice and violence of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and seek solutions. And now, for nearly 2 years, we have been witnesses to a horrific level of bloodshed and destruction in Gaza. It stands in flagrant violations of international laws and the values of our shared humanity, and it threatens the foundations of future peace. The war in Gaza must end. Humanitarian aid must flow unhindered, and all illegal and unilateral measures in the West Bank and settler violence must also end. A clear choice stands before us. On one side, to continue down the dark and bloody path of war and conflict, or to take the path of peace through the two-state solution. And today the world is taking a significant step on the path to achieving just and lasting peace. This global rally behind the two-state solution sends a clear message. The conflict must end. The two-state solution is the only path to the just and lasting peace that fulfills the rights of all our peoples. We thank all countries that have recognized the state of Palestine, and now we must work to stop all measures that undermine the two-state solution. We must make sure that today is a step in a continued effort to realize it. As we work on ending the war in Gaza, we must also do all we can to restore hope. The commitment so many countries are making to a future of peace today begins that long, difficult, but essential process. Thank you.
Je remercie.
I thank His Majesty the King of Jordan. I now give the floor to the President of Turkey.
Sayın Devlet
Excellencies, heads of state and government, His Excellency, the Secretary General, esteemed delegation members, let me greet you all with most heartfelt feelings and with kind regards. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to France and to Saudi Arabia, who are co-chairing this conference. I congratulate all the countries that have decided to recognize the state of Palestine for honoring the voice of justice and of conscience. I hope that this step, along with the initiatives to be undertaken in the coming period, will accelerate the implementation of a two-state solution. In our region, an unprecedented catastrophe has been unfolding for nearly 2 years now under the Israeli government's heavy and inhumane attacks. The massacre and brutality in Gaza continues with all its intensity. Since it is true that anyone who has a conscience cannot possibly accept this or remain silent vis-à-vis all this, the Netanyahu government is trying to make sure the following. Their goal is to make the establishment of a Palestinian state impossible and to force the Palestinian people to emigrate as much as possible. In the midst of these negative developments of a group of countries, among them members of the UN Security Council, they have taken the decision to recognize the state of Palestine, and this is an extremely significant and historic step. Now, we wholeheartedly wish we could see Palestinian President Mr. Abbas to be able to speak in this conference here today. Nevertheless, I find it extremely valuable that all the participants speaking today are also serving as the voice of the Palestinian people. It is also a fact that today the Palestinian cause has become a global issue. The participation in this hall today is the most important proof of this. In Europe, in Asia, the Americas, and Africa, we are witnessing people chanting "Free Palestine" on the streets, on social media, or in the press more than ever before now. This contradiction should not escape anyone's attention, including my friends here. The Netanyahu government governs today a society who, in the past, was targeted for eradication with the persecutions of the Holocaust. And today, his government is committing genocide against its own neighbors with whom they have shared the same land, the same water, air, and sea for thousands of years. Standing up against this oppression is not only a legal duty of the international community, but also a moral responsibility. The international community must stop expansionism in the West Bank, also the fait accompli in East Jerusalem, and the attempts to spread instability in the region. Otherwise, we cannot possibly talk about the presence of an international order or talk about defending universal values. The goal of deepening occupation and annexation policies is clear. The goal is to kill the vision of a two-state solution, to leave no ground for the state of Palestine to survive, to exile the Palestinian people, and to implement their expansionist ambitions by fueling instability in the region. Now, this cannot be allowed. At this conference today, I hope that the countries that have shown the courage to recognize the state of Palestine will follow through on this historic stance with determined, concrete, and deterrent steps. It is now necessary to declare a ceasefire, ensure unhindered access to humanitarian aid to Gaza, and for Israel to withdraw its forces from Gaza. Apologies. I cannot hear the president. I lost his voice. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. This is the interpreter speaking. I cannot hear the president. His voice is gone. His voice is gone. We cannot hear him. Me and my colleague, we cannot hear the president. Apologies for this, but we're having a technical glitch here. We cannot hear the president. We stopped being able to hear him. His voice is gone completely. Sorry, but we cannot hear the president. His voice is gone completely. We stopped being able to hear him. And right next to our booth, we have colleagues from, we believe, the Brazilian delegation, the Portuguese booth, and I can see them from the window. They cannot hear the floor either. We cannot hear the floor. We cannot hear the floor. Oh, it's back.
Au président du Brésil.
I give the floor now to the President of Brazil.